Hello Tokusatsu community and welcome back to Toku Topics. Today is my in-depth review of the brand new Premium Bandai exclusive Kaizoku Sentai Gokaiger Memorial Edition Mobirates. So this is a super special, fancy, adult collector version of the original Mobirates toy that came out 11 years ago at this point, but 10 years ago when it was originally released, because this did come out at the end of December 2021. But it was still popular. There are multiple different shipments of this. So there's like a December 2021, and I believe it's a February and March of 2022. A very, very popular item here because there's a lot of Gokaiger fans, a lot of Ranger Key fans, and just a lot of general hype surrounding this toy because of the release of the brand new 10 Gokaiger film that came out at the end of 2021 to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the series. I did a full unboxing video for this a couple of days ago, so be sure to check that out because I obviously have already opened the toy, but this is where I'm going to go over all the different features that this thing has, because there was a lot to go over with this. There was so many things that they've packed into this toy that is just absolutely incredible, so I'm not going to waste any more time. We're going to dive into it, but first I'm going to compare this version to the other two versions that were previously released, so you can see the different cosmetic additions that they have added to this toy. So one of the biggest things that they have added to this release is a brand new display stand, not seen on any other version of it because this one is a special premium toy so you can actually put it on display. It is a pretty cheap display stand. It doesn't feel like the greatest of quality, but it doesn't really need to be. It does come in two different pieces in the box, which you can just separate like that. You have to put it together out of the box, but you get the Gokaiger symbol as kind of the base of the stand, which is a very nice plastic. It still does feel a little cheap because it is pretty hollow in the back. But it's also very reflective. You might be able to see my face and the lights a little bit in there. But I do like what they've done with this in terms of having the shinier parts be the logo and this kind of, general plastic be in the in-between gray area. And on the back, it's just very simple. There's just some copyright information and such like that. And to assemble it, there's nothing to it. There's just a little ports down there, and you just clip it in like that. Now you can see here that these little divots for the Mobirates to rest in. So, of course, you can fit any Mobirates in here, actually, because none of them actually clip in. This is the original 2011 release, which we're going to take a look at in comparison in a second. Very squeaky when you move it, but basically it just kind of lines up with the little divots that are in there. So you can have it rest in there in phone mode, or you can, of course, have it open to the full Gokaiger, open form of the phone and have it do that as well. Obviously, this is off camera a little bit, or a lot of it, but you can get the point, and I will zoom out to show it in better detail with the actual Memorial Mobirates. Of course, just to prove that it does work in all three, here is the 2012 release of the Legend Mobirates, which also clipped in there just fine. Well, it doesn't clip, it just sits in there with friction. Obviously, you're not going to want to pick it up by this because it's not going to take the stand with it, but it is a very nice way to display it. I mean, the Mobirates have always had enough, stability to be able to have them rest like that, and maybe even with the phone open, you could always kind of rest it like this, not actually standing up, but it's a nice feature that I would not have, really been asking for or really would have expected, but it's nice to have nonetheless. And here is the Memorial version actually on its proper stand, which is very nice. So there's been a number of different Mobirates released over the years. Of course, we have the original 2011 deluxe version released at the beginning of Gokaiger, the 2012 Legend Edition, released at the end of Gokaiger / the beginning of Go Busters, and the 2021 Memorial Premium Bandai Edition. You can obviously see over the years we've had differing numbers of Ranger Keys come out with each of these. Of course, the original release had 3 Red Rangers, Gokai Red, Gohan Red, and Shinken Red, which were 2 of the 3 most recent Sentai at the time. There was no Goseiger packed in with this, you had to get that one later. For the Legend Mobirates, there's new sounds and a new aesthetic in terms of the overall paint job on it, and that came with Aqua Red for the very first time, and only time in a deluxe format. And then, of course, here with the Memorial one, you get the whole team of Gokaigers, because they want you to be able to get at least the most out of the core team that used the phone. And so basically, you kind of have the 2 Memorial releases and how they complement each other, because if you just get the Memorial Mobirates, you're perfectly good. You can use everything you've had before, which we will go into, and you can get the most out of the actual core team of Gokaigers, especially if you never got the Gokai Gun or Gokai Saber or any of that stuff from back then that came with the original deluxe versions of the keys. However, if you never got any Red Ranger, that's where the Memorial 35 Red Ranger set will come in, because not only will that give you every red that is not included with here, you even get Aqua Red in there from the original Legend Mobirates. So the only ones we should really compare together is the original deluxe version from 2011 and the Memorial version from 2021. So obviously you can already see on the front the biggest difference is the fact that they have covered up all of the screw holes that are present here. So of course the one there, the two there, the two there, the two there, and the one there are not here on this one. The sticker in terms of the Gokaiger font is a little thicker and a little bit more whiter, I suppose. Like it's a little bit more prominent in terms of the Memorial version than the original one. But that could just also be the age of this one being 10 years old. Taking a look at the sides, they are basically the exact same. I feel like it's basically impossible to tell which one is which if you're looking at it at this view. It is pretty much the only view where you couldn't tell which one is different. Except for maybe the bottom, but you can kind of see the screw holes on the original one, depending on the angle that you're looking at. Even the tops are going to look different because you can see here they have changed it a little bit. Of course, there's not this big number on the top on the Memorial one anymore. And also the little like plastic buttons are up there, the little notches to the latches for the actual phone mode are all black plastic now to blend in better than on the original one. On the other side though, this is where you get some of the biggest differences. So this one has added two brand new buttons right there and right there, as you can see in the reflections of the light, right there and right there. They're not present on this one at all because there are two brand new like sound effect modes that this thing has that this is unlocked with the buttons. And then the biggest changes besides the new buttons and the screw holes is the back. The back is virtually the same in terms of design, but they have removed all of the Bandai copyright information from the back of this one to this one, and they've also removed the on and off switch that's here because it's not here on this one. Now, what is interesting is they've also changed the size of the battery compartment door. As you can see, it's a little smaller on this one and a little thicker on this one, but the button is the same area and same place, but it's gray plastic here and black plastic on this one. And that is because the fact that the on and off switch for the Memorial Mobirates is actually inside the battery compartment, which is rather annoying, but it does, make sure that there's no on and off switch to break up the overall design. The only thing that breaks up the design is just those two buttons that we talked about earlier, which I kind of wish they would have just put the on and off switch like right here or something. I think that would have made it a little bit better and a little bit more easier for accessibility, but I get what they're going for here, but it is a little annoying. Inside the battery cover, both of them take two AAA batteries, so the same exact kind as all the Mobirates have taken, but of course you can see here in a little bit better detail the differences in the battery compartment sizes. So we'll go ahead and put this one back on the original Mobirates, and here we'll go ahead and turn on the Memorial one. So you can see there's a big on and off switch right there, so it's actually already on, so we'll turn it off, and then you can hear the activation sound, which is pretty familiar because it is the same as that one, and it is also the same as that one. But they obviously all have a little bit of different speaker quality between the three different versions. So that is interesting, and also just because of the fact that this is a newer, more premium model. So we'll go ahead and put the battery cover, not upside down, but back on the toy. And we will go ahead and open it up. Voila. So it looks the exact same on the inside as on the original version, so we will go ahead and compare that as well. But there is a little bit of differences in the keypads. So as I already went over in my unboxing video, there are some differences here because of the fact that the new one has a lot more playability. So in the original toy right here, which this is the original deluxe one, the green, red, pound, and the other key here are all plastic. They're not pressable buttons like every single one of these else buttons are. You can't do anything with those ones. There's also the gray inside of the Ranger key slot, which is not necessarily show accurate and definitely kind of stands out, just like the gray plastic on the hinges that we talked about earlier. On the Memorial Edition, however, not only is there black plastic inside the Ranger key slot, every single button actually does something now. So the call mode button has a feature associated with it. This button is basically the same thing as the other ones were before. This one is also a special button that basically cancels out anything. If you want to reset it back to its original modes or anything, you click that button. This button is now narration based off of the original opening of Gokaiger, and this one is the one that actually swaps the different modes or switches the different modes inside of the toy. These buttons, though, all function the exact same depending on what mode you're in, but for the most part will just work the same as any other Mobirates has ever done before. So the Memorial Mobirates comes with 5 Ranger keys. You get the whole Gokaiger team here, and they are a little bit different from their original Ranger key versions. First of all, they all have a brand new spring gimmick to actually flip them into a key that was not present on the original Ranger keys, although it's very similar to the one-click set that came out as like a special one-off Gashapon set back in 2011, and also technically the Power Rangers Super Mega Force keys kind of had like an auto flip feature, so it's kind of like that. But basically what they've done to these keys is they look a little cleaner, the paint applications are a little nicer and a little, crisper on these keys. The backs also are made of this kind of metallic kind of plastic now, and no longer the like kind of, this is not the actual 001 Ranger key, it's the number 203 Ranger key, but you can see here, it's like a dull gray plastic, and it's not this kind of shinier plastic, and these all have key numbers, and they've removed the key numbers on these ones now. But they all have a button here that lets them auto flip. So, basically, you still, put the arms up, you just get your thumb in there, and they all auto flip like that. And none of them have any copyright information there or anything like that, which is really, really nice. But the keys are the same cut, so they work in all three versions of the Mobirates. They work in the Galleon Buster, the Gokai Gun, the Gokai Saber, anything that took a Ranger key. However, the only one that will not work, because of the fact that it's an auto flip, is that you cannot get the legs. You can kind of try to get the arms to rest in there, but you can't put them in that Sentai cockpit thing, because you need that to be like in a half mode key, and you can't do that with these because they auto flip up. Alright, now that we've gone over comparisons, and of course also the Ranger key differences, now we can take a look at the actual sounds in different modes that this toy has. And there's a lot. So, first of all, let's go ahead and consult the user manuals that are included with this. So, of course, these are exclusively in Japanese, but there is a lot of valuable information in here. And what's really nice is that Bandai has also included a QR code inside, which I will show off on the screen right now. So the top one is for the actual PDF version of the manual here, which you can also just type in that URL, or you can check out the description down below, because I will also include the URL down there as well. And there's also a YouTube video too, I believe this is the Bandai demonstration video that they did earlier before in the year. So that is very helpful and very nice, but the entire manual is all in Japanese. But basically, it kind of just goes over the basics of this thing, but it does explain everything that it can do, which is very nice. You have the different mode explanations there, and everything we went over with, so like all this stuff already we talked about. The batteries, and how you put it on the stand, and how you switch the modes. And then here's just an explanation of every mode, which is I'm not really going to spend too much time on in the instruction manual, because it is in Japanese, but there is all of that, and it just breaks down all 5 modes that this toy has. This one, though, is a really nice one to have, but it is also exclusively in Japanese. This is all of the phrases that the toy has. So all of the different phrases from the 5 Gokaigers, and all the different narration phrases, and all the different, transformation phrases. And on the back, it also has the songs that are included and everything like that, which is very helpful to have. I love both of those user manuals. But I've read them, I've translated them using my phone to the best of my ability, which I don't have a translated version to show you guys, but I think I understand the fundamental basics of everything that this thing can do. So first of all, when you turn on the toy, which we obviously already did, we are in the basic regular mode, which basically is just this toy as a normal Mobirates, with a little extra flair to it, of course. So this is the mode where you can use codes. This is the mode where you will transform using a Ranger key, and if you click the button in the middle there, it will do the original Mobirates, second phrase, where it's either the team, roll call sound, or it's, where it just says Kaizoku Sentai Gokaiger, Gokai Red, Gokai Blue. The original things that the toy could do. So, of course, we could go ahead and grab the original, or not the original, but the new Gokai Red Ranger key, and show it off, basically, how that would work here. So, of course, same way as always, which does feel a little bit different putting the key in there. It does feel slightly different in terms of just how it latches in there, but it is basically the same thing. Ooh. And then, of course, just like the original toy, you can click the middle button. Kaizoku Sentai Gokaiger! So that is just like the deluxe toy did back in the day. So the kind of new features with this, which this is one complaint I have with mine, it does not like to close very well. I kind of have to really give it some force to close it. There we go. So, see, not as good in terms of closing it as the other ones were before. So basically what they want you to do now, which this is kind of not really working, doing it on the stand all the time. So maybe we'll just move it off. But there we go. So the new thing that they wanted you to do is with this button here. So this is supposed to replicate the swooshing around that the Gokaigers would do. They would say something and they would go. Gokai change. Just like that. So that is a cool little feature. I don't think it's super needed, but I do like it. I like it better. This button is a lot better when we get into the different voice phrase modes, because that's really where it comes to shine. But basically, from this point forward, like in terms of this mode, it's just the original Deluxe Mobirates. It's basically like if you want to do the bare minimum of this toy, this will be the mode that you're always defaulting in, and the one that you will kind of be on when the toy is on. So one thing that you can do in this mode is the phone call button here. So this phone button, which used to be nothing, now actually can ring, and you can pick it up based off of who calls. So there are 3 different phrases of people that will call. So it's 2 Navi phrases and 1 Guy phrase. So Guy's key is not included in here, Gokai Silver, but he does have presences in the different modes, which we'll go on. But he's, definitely the one in here the least amount. So let's see who calls us this time. So after a couple of seconds, the phone will ring, and then of course you can try it again. And one more time. So there's that. So that is a pretty cool feature that they've actually given this button something to do, but that's basically all that button can do. This button, which we'll get into in a minute, is where we can kind of go back to this original default mode, or exit out of the different modes, or basically exit out of anything. You can even do it to interrupt the transformation sounds. So if we put a key in here, so you can interrupt it, whatever it's doing. That's just the stop it button. So which makes sense because it is the end call button, and I do like that feature quite a bit. So here we will go ahead and just show off a couple of the different sounds that are, here with the keypad. So no longer can you do a lot of the codes, which is where I kind of got back into the beginning of the video where I talked about how these two still have merit, because they have so many different codes that the keypad can activate that they have removed from this version. Pretty much this version has, in terms of codes, the only codes that still really work are the ones where you type in a certain team's number. And that works through everybody up to Zenkaiger. So that does show how the phone is updated to have Go Busters through Zenkaiger in here, which is pretty cool because the Legend Mobirates updated it through Go Busters. This one obviously only has the first 35, so this is the only way to get sounds for Kyoryuger through Zenkaiger. It's even cool when you do things like this one for 42, which of course is Lupin Ranger and Pato Ranger. It does say both of them. And there'll be a bunch of different sounds that those keys can unlock in terms of the full transformation when we get those Red Ranger keys in that set in March, which is one of the things that we can't do yet, just like the Galleon key. There are a couple more things that this phone will be able to do that we just can't do today. So one of the only codes that actually still works, because it's one that we actually see in the show, is 5501. So we can summon Gokai Galleon just like they do in the show, and just like on the older toy. One new code that they've added in here, just so that it can have more sounds from the Legend Mobirates, is if you click 0 4 times. So Aqua Red actually has a keypad code now, which I don't remember if that was here. I don't think that was part of the Legend Mobirates, but I can check it. Ah, that's right. That's how you got into the Encyclopedia mode last time around. So that does do a different thing in the Memorial Mobirates than it did in the Legend. There is no Super Sentai Encyclopedia mode in here because there's a lot of other modes. It doesn't really need it. So, of course, we have these two buttons to talk about now. This one being the narration button, and this one being the different modes button. So this is where we're also going to bring these buttons into use. So we already talked about this one, just as swishing sounds when it's in the basic mode. But this one here is all the different noises in terms of the songs. So there are 3 different songs by just clicking the button, and then clicking it again to stop it. but there's 5 songs total, technically 4. One of them is just a new version of a song. Technically 6 if you count 2 different versions of 2 of the songs. So if you hold down the button, you will actually get new sounds in terms of the narration version of the Gokaiger theme. So basically, it's the kind of a thing you want to do 2 different button clicks for. So this one is the narration button like we talked about. Which, if you don't know what that is the opening narration for the Gokaiger theme song. So the way you kind of want to do it is basically kind of line it up to where you hold down this button. And then it will play the whole theme song, which is really cool. But I also don't want to get copyright strike, so we're going to turn that off. But, of course, like I said earlier, you can do it again, because there is 2 different narrations in here. I didn't really time that one perfectly, but you get the gist of it. And then it will do that again. So that is a cool way to, have the narration and the songs work together in tandem. The other song that you get by holding down the button is the Super Sentai Hero Getter. Everybody's favorite song. I love this song. And we'll come back to that because there's some cool things you can do with it. But now let's check out the different modes. So we already went over the basic mode here. The first mode is going to be the transformation with actual voice phrases mode. So that will be the first mode that Navi will introduce when you click this pound button down here in the corner. So there are 5 different things you can click here. The first mode is the basic one we just went over, which is the mode that the phone is in when you turn it on. And then you have the other 4 modes, which we're going to go over right now. And they just cycle through at the same time. And of course, if you want to go back to default mode anytime you want, just go ahead and click the cancel button. So let's go ahead and get into the transformation phrases mode. Now this mode has a lot of fun to play around with. So now the buttons here, 1 through 5, will give you the Gokaiger's phrases. Each of them having, I believe it's about 3 different phrases in here. But you can play around with a bunch of different combinations. So number 1 is going to be Marvelous. And then we'll reset. Now I am going to reset this mode, and I'll tell you why. So first I'll just demonstrate it with just Marvelous. So you can interrupt him and have him do that. Of course, Joe as well. But as you heard there, it had Marvelous and Joe, because I had already done Marvelous and then Joe. Then if you had Luca in there, Don, and I am. So now it's all 5 of them. And of course it will go back to that. So once it does the Gokai change, then it will do the roll call. Then you get battle sounds, 3 different battle sounds. Swords, guns, and explosions. So that is really, really cool. And of course you compare that with the music to really get a great effect from recreating certain scenes from the show or whatever. But like I said earlier, you can do this in any combination. So we'll reset this mode again. And let's do just Luca and Don, for example. of course, since it's just the two of them, I should probably bring in a different Ranger key. It doesn't matter, you can put any key in there now. So it will only do whichever ones you click, which is really cool. So you can do the whole team, or you can just do them. However, this only works for the main 5, so you can't have a special one where Guy will do stuff because, he didn't use Mobirates. However, Guy is included in a couple of the different phrases here, or really just one other mode here. So modes 2, 3, and 4 are essentially the same kind of thing in terms of transformation jingles with the actual voice phrases. So like I had just gone over, that was mode number 2. Mode number 3 is the initial debut phrase mode. So this one is going to be when we click this button again. So this is the Shokai Henshin mode, or the first appearance mode. So what this one is going to do is this will go back to being code buttons, because the way they want you to do it is do the whole scene from the first episode of Gokaiger, which this is really cool. I recommend you doing this. I can't do it here for copyright reasons, but line up the first episode of Gokaiger's first initial fight to these voice phrases, and it matches nearly perfectly. It's a little bit different, and you're going to have some time waiting for a Zaniac member to talk, but it does line up to the original lines said in the first episode.
消えるのはお前だ。あなたたちの言うことを聞く耳などありません。僕もお前らみたいなのは大嫌いだ。
And then a Zaniac would talk right here.
気に入らねえもんはぶっ潰す。それが海賊ってもんだろ。豪快戦士。豪快じゃ。豪快レッド。豪快ブルー。豪快イエロー。豪快グリーン。豪快ピンク。海賊戦隊。豪快じゃ。派手に行くぜ。
So that is the first episode mode, which is really cool that they have that phrase in there as well. But if you liked the first episode, you're probably going to like the last episode, and that's where mode number 4 is going to come in. So this mode, or mode number 3, technically, it's weird in terms of where you count the default mode. This one is going to be the final episode transformation dialogue mode. So the Saishu Kai Henshin mode, so the final episode transformation, which also lines up to the final battle phrases that they say right before they do their when they do every single Gokai change in the final battle against Zaniac in episode, 51? It does line up to that as well, and since Guy is there, Guy will be included this time around.
てめえは俺たちに勝てねえよ。この星を狙ったのが間違いだったんだ。この星にはね、私たち海賊でも手を出せない大きな力があったのよ。お前には見えないだろうけど、僕たちは6人だけじゃない。私たちの後ろにはこの星を守り続けてきた人たちがいます。34のスーパー戦隊がいるんだ。その力、今見せてやれ。
And then all the Sentai appear behind him.
俺たちは35番目のスーパー戦隊だが、海賊だからな。お前みたいな気に入らない奴は、力の限りぶっ潰す。豪快チェンジ。豪快じゃ。
You sick of hearing this yet? Because we've played it so many times.
豪快レッド。豪快ブルー。豪快イエロー。豪快グリーン。豪快ピンク。豪快シルバー。海賊戦隊。豪快だ。最後だからな。ド派手に行くぜ。
Love that. So that is basically all the different phrases that are in this phone. And that's where we get into the last mode, the treasure navigation mode. So if you know how Gokaiger worked, when they met all the other teams and all that stuff, Navi would give them a clue to meet with a past member of that team to kind of find them and find their greater power. And that is what this mode is going to come into play here for. So this one is the final mode, clicking button here. The Otakara Navigate. So this one, I'm not going to show everything off because there are so many different phrases that this thing can do, but we can show it with the Gokaigers because it does work with this. But what's interesting is that when you turn the key here, it's not going to do the full transformation. It's going to cut it off in the middle so Navi can talk. On the Gokaiger ones, at least especially Gokai Red, you can click this and get numerous different phrases.
にかく天使と力を合わせて見る見る。黒い服を着た人間がいいことを教えてくれるぞよ。風の忍者と手を取り合い、協力するぞよ。
I think it might be ciphering through all of them from the Gokaiger team. I don't know what Navi's saying, to be perfectly honest with you, but I do know that the Gokaiger one is the only one that alternates through. This is where we're going to start bringing in older Ranger keys. So this, of course, was an interesting factor that they did not really want to confirm or deny. They basically were like, we can't guarantee that older Ranger keys work with the new phone. They do. So, and they work the same. So here is Go On Red, a key released 10 years ago. What is it going to do in here? It's going to say Go Onger, but we're in the navigation mode, so we'll have a new special phrase.
Let's Otakara Navigate! 次元を超えたロボを案内するぞよ。
And every Sentai will have a new phrase in here. Now, also to clarify here, this will also work in terms of if you put like a Go On Wings in here, for example, it will say the same, treasure navigation form for both Go Onger and the Go On Wings. So, take that into account with like Goseiger and Gosei Knight's how they had different phrases before. They have the same phrase under this mode. This Hurricaneer is another example, stuff like that, where they were slightly different in terms of like what the Mobirates said in the past, or like what the Encyclopedia mode even said in the past. It will have a new thing in there. Now, you can kind of get it to unlock the sounds for the post Gokaiger teams, but since we don't have those keys in full force yet, the only one we can really properly test out is Go Busters, since the Go Busters keys will be compatible and work the same way with the new version that's coming out and the older versions.
Let's Otakara Navigate! Dangerous!
And if you also are curious what the other ones are going to say, well, you just heard it, because every key, regardless if it's a Go Busters one or a post Go Busters one that all have the same key piece, she will say, or he, whatever Navi is, will say danger, danger, danger.
Let's Otakara Navigate! 空飛ぶ島で運命の出会いがあるぞよ。Let's Otakara Navigate! Dangerous!
It will actually navigate between two, so I was wrong about that, my bad. It will actually have two different phrases for the post Gokaiger teams. But the only ones that will have unique ones are the ones for Go Ranger through Gokaiger. So, we'd already messed around with these keys a little bit, but now basically to wrap this up today, which I've already been recording this for a very long time, is we're going to show off what a couple of these different keys do in this Mobirates, because I know people are curious. Alright, to show off some of the special things you can do with certain Ranger keys in this phone, we are going to return to the Super Sentai Hero Getter that I mentioned earlier in this video. So I talked about that there was something special with that song in terms of what Ranger keys you use, and there is. So if you're familiar with the Super Sentai Hero Getter, it is a song that gives a little phrase about every single Sentai team. But it's a pretty long song because it has to cover 35 teams in the original version, 40 teams in like the second version released in 2016, and now 45 teams in the most recent version that they just came out with. So what's really cool is that there's a way to skip to certain parts in the song based off of what Ranger key you use in the phone. So basically there are 5 keys I have here because there are basically 5 different kind of like jumping points that you can use for this song. So I'm not going to play the entire thing obviously because of copyright, but I will show you what each one of these is going to do. So first of all, if you just take a Gokaiger Ranger key, so this one is the one that came with the Memorial Mobirates, and you put it in the phone, just like you would do any other time or any other key. I'm just going to go ahead and cancel that sound there. So of course, the first time you hold it in, it's going to be the theme song. But the second time you hold it in, it's going to be the Super Sentai Hero Getter, and specifically, it's going to be the one that has a little bit of instrumental before the lyrics kick in. And then to stop it, you just click the button. So obviously, there's a little bit of downtime there before it got to the lyrics. So that one will also play the entire song. That's the full version of the song. So it will play all of the different lyrics for it. So basically all the chorus and of course all the different verses. But if you wanted to get to a specific verse, that's where you're going to get these keys involved here. So if you use Go Ranger or any key from Go Ranger through basically the first phrase or the first lyric of the song, that goes up to the first grouping of teams, which goes all the way up and through it's Live Man. So if you use Go Ranger through Live Man, you're going to get the first verse of the song. And it'll skip straight to the lyrics. Then, of course, the song picks up with the second verse, starting with Turbo Ranger through Time Ranger. So if you use a key anywhere in that era of Sentai, you'll get the second verse. And then, of course, same thing. I have Aba Ranger out here for this demonstration, but it can be any key from Gal Ranger through, I believe, Goseiger? Yeah. So if you want to do any from that verse, of course, use a key from that era. So that's really cool. But if this couldn't get any cooler, it actually has, so obviously those were all from the original version of the song released 10 years ago. However, they did update it for Ten Gokaiger, adding for the very first time phrases for Q Ranger through Zenkaiger. And thankfully, we do have one key that would fall into that category. So for the new song, since there are now 45 teams, they changed up which teams are in which verses. So now it's like 15, then 15, then 15 for 3 verses in the song. So for here, this is going to be the more modern era, but I believe it starts with like Go Onger or something like that. But it will still work, but it will now play the new song instead of the older song, which I believe is the only way to get the new songs. I don't know if you can actually get the entirety of the new version of it in this phone, or just the final verse that has the new teams, but at least you can unlock that verse. So that's awesome. So it's yet to be seen exactly how the the new keys and the upcoming sets are going to factor into that. But I'm assuming it'll probably work how Go Busters does. But hey, really, really cool way to do this. I love this a lot. So for this section of the video, I hope that it will cover most of the Ranger key questions people have in relation to this phone. But of course, you can, if you have it yourself, there's so many different things you can do with this. But first of all, we will show off Gokai Red. This is, of course, the actual original deluxe version of the key released back in 2011. It says Ranger Key 001, and it has the same combination as the new Memorial one. If you were curious what Gokai Silver does, Gokai Silver will still function the same way as his other one did. And this one is my kind of spare broken one that doesn't have a sticker on the back, so that's interesting. So it still gives you the questioning Gokaiger that the original Gokai Silver key did in the original Mobirates. We have some certain special ones like Go on Wings that will still work and say their special team names. Go on Wings! That goes for things like Shurikenger as well. I'm not going to listen to that sound every time. You know what the sound is going to be. So what's interesting here is that it does also work with Aka Red, which I guess is not that interesting because the Memorial one did, but obviously because it's in the Memorial sets is what I mean. This will still work. Here's what gets a kind of an interesting part of this that I think is interesting. So, Go Busters. So obviously did not work in the original Mobirates, did work in the Legend. So I want to show off first what it does in the Legend Mobirates. So this is the one that came out originally that could, the first one that could read Go Busters. So that is the transformation for Go Busters. That's not the typical Gokai change transformation. And when you hear the sound afterward, it said Tokume Sentai Go Busters, right? So it had a different transformation sound, and it said Tokume Sentai at the end. However, Go Busters is no longer new stuff. It's no longer, the coolest, hippest Sentai on the block. So it's not going to get special treatment in the Memorial Mobirates. It's going to be treated like any other Sentai would. And they've changed their secondary phrase as well. Busters, ready, go! So I thought that was interesting. So Go Busters does have new sounds in here. Now, unfortunately, Kyoryuger and Tokyuger and Ninja, the other Sentai that actually did get Ranger keys back in the day in the original run, all unfortunately have the exact, which thank you for cooperating, all have the exact same key back piece, which I can barely show off here because right does not, wow, this is not working. They all have the same key back piece. So they don't know. The phone does not have any idea which one is Kyoryuger, Tokyuger, and Ninja. So they're all going to work the same. That's where you're really going to need to get that new set in March that will actually have new versions of Kyoryu Red, Toku Ichigo, and Akaninja that will actually be able to read Kyoryuger, Tokyuger, and Ninja in the phone. But we can still use it anyway. It still will unlock something. But if you're familiar with the Metal Hero keys, every single one of them use this exact same key piece as well. So you're not going to get anything out of those keys, unfortunately, either. And we have no idea really of knowing if the Metal Heroes are actually programmed into this phone or if they have not even been mentioned or, even given a thoughts to be included at all. I hope they're in here somehow, like some kind of secret sound that we just don't have keys for, but I don't know. I feel like it's kind of doubtful. The one that breaks my heart the most is this one, Kamen Rider O's. So Kamen Rider O's was a secret hidden sound in the original Mobirates, and then they removed it for the Legend. And while it does have a different key piece than the, ones that are post Go Busters, and technically could be identified, it also does not say Kamen Rider O's anymore, which is really, really unfortunate. I wish they would have kept that. So yeah, there's that. But there's also a couple other random ones out there that I thought were interesting. So for example, this one, key number 202, is a Gokai Red key, metallic one, that came with the Galleon Buster. So this one, let's say this. So yeah, exact same sound that you heard before, which is weird because it is a different key cut than the ones that said that sound earlier. But it doesn't care. It just is still saying Special Ranger key. Same kind of thing you can be saying with, which one is it here? This one, key number 203, which was one of the magazine pack-in ones, I think is also a different key hinge, possibly? Yes, it is. And it also does not work exactly the way I think it did before. So it's honestly pretty annoying that there are a couple of different unique key cuts that the phone identifies, obviously, because it knows that it's a different key cut, but it's because it's not saying like a random Sentai team, but it's just saying Special Ranger key for all of them. And it's like, for a phone that I really wish would have Kamen Rider O's, the Metal Heroes, Super Ranger, sounds that neither of the ones ever had before, this is a letdown. So I know that they talked about how they had to change the keys a little bit to add more notches to cut to have Kyoryuger through Zenkaiger, but still. One thing that is very strange to me is that this one here is one of the magazine pack-in bonus keys. So they did this for Gosei Red, Shinken Blue, and Aka Ranger, and they actually had unique key cuts and key numbers. You can see here number 192. They were different from the original versions. And in the older toys, they would say Special Ranger key, and then you would click the button, and it would say what Sentai they are. Here, it doesn't care that it's a special key. It just thinks you're putting a regular Gokaiger or a regular Go Ranger key in there. So I found that interesting, that it doesn't recognize it as here, we'll show it off in the original Mobirates. Yeah, so it said Television Magazine, and then it said Go Ranger at the end of that phrase. I don't remember exactly what it did in the Legend Mobirates. We can test that. So yeah. So the Legend Mobirates and the Memorial Mobirates kind of have that catch-all special key sound, but for the Memorial, it just resorts to this being a regular Go Ranger key. It doesn't care that it's the magazine pack-in one, which, like I said, is odd, because that's yet another key cut that could have been used for something else that they are just delegating it to a pre-existing sound. So, I don't know. It's kind of reading it, but it's also not. Alright, and I think that will finally do it for my in-depth review of the Memorial Edition Mobirates. This thing can do a lot, and what's really cool about it is the fact that it doesn't even have everything unlocked yet. Like I said, with the new sets that are coming out, that will really, give it the full potential of everything that it can do. And who knows what sounds are hidden in here. Like I said, there was no O's in Metal Hero sounds from what I can tell, but then again, that's just from what I could tell. It's always possible that maybe they have something planned up their sleeve to give us like a new version of every key ever made or something. I think it's a little optimistic to try to think that way, but who knows? But I love this toy so much. I cannot get over how cool this thing is. My only complaints with it really is the different defects people have been getting, but thankfully mine is perfectly fine. And also the fact that you can't turn it off without taking the battery cover off. That is pretty annoying. But I like the new keys, I like the new style of keys, I love all the new sounds and phrases, I love that it's updated through Gokaiger. I wish Dawn Brothers was included, but 0046 does not work, unfortunately. And yeah, that's all I really have to say with it, but I would love to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments below. Did you pick this up? Are you going to try to pick one up now that you've seen everything that it can do? Or are you good? Do you have, other versions of the Mobirates and that's all you really need and all these new fancy bells and whistles are not enough for you to pick it up? Because I paid $145 for this thing in terms of pre-order for the early bird price at Toei Collectibles. So that was like the cheapest they had it offered for. So that's not even as cheap as they're going for. They are very expensive, and I get how people might not think all the new stuff is worth it to try to get an investment on that. But I love this toy a lot. I highly, highly recommend it for any Gokaiger fan or any Ranger Key collector. It is the definitive version of the toy that you could possibly get, not only for the fact that it's updated. I mean, just that alone, I think it's enough. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video review so much. Of course, this thing is not included. I don't want to make sure nobody thinks that this is just a fun little backdrop I wanted to have here to fill a bunch of white space. And if you'd like to see the in-depth look at the box on this thing and my initial reactions to opening it up, be sure to check out my Project Unlock episode from this past Friday. I will, of course, be taking a look in an in-depth review and an unboxing for the Memorial Edition 35 Red set whenever that ships to me, which should be very soon, probably this week. And then the 35 or the After Gokaiger set in March and the Galleon Key. I have all of it on pre-order. I'm getting all of it. I'm going to do unboxings and reviews for all of it, so be sure to stay tuned for all of that. You can also check out the PDF of the user manual in the description below. And that's all I got. So until next time, you can follow me on Twitter at LivingRangerKey or at LightningFigPR. Gokai Change. We finally did it.